Moet ons inent of moet ons nie inent nie? En nee, ons praat nie vandag van COVID nie. Hier is die antwoord eenvoudig. Die ontwikkeling van 'n inentingsprogram vir vervangingsverse is 'n onontbeerlike element van doeltreffende kuddegesondheidsbestuur. Dr. Danie Odendaal van Veearts Netwerk gesels vanoggend met ons oor die gesondheid van eerste kalfverse en waarom boere reeds vroeg al in 'n inentingsprogram moet belê. Ons gesels ook met 'n mentor in meteorologie, Professor Walker, oor haar loopbaan. Maar moenie weggaan nie, want net hierna is ek terug met vandag se nuus. In today's news, the Odendaal Group is mourning the passing of South African wine icon Francis Bailey. Bailey, also known as Danie, served on the Odendaal Group's board since its inception in 2000 until his retirement in 2013. Bailey was a member of oenology and viticultural societies in both the United States and Australia. He also played a key role in strengthening the reputation of the local wine industry in global markets. According to Richard Rushton, Managing Director of Odendaal, Bailey was held in extremely high regard, both locally and internationally. He was a revered mentor in South Africa's wine and brandy industry. And in other wine industry news, the DGB, South Africa's leading premier wine company, has acquired the majority shareholding in the Backsburg wine estate. This transaction follows the sale of Backsburg's main Simondian vineyard late last year. Backsburg's cellar equipment will be relocated to Franschhoek, where the portfolio of wines will now be produced under the newly formed entity, Backsburg Family Wines. DGB says it will ensure that the Backsburg name continues to be a respected brand in the South African wine industry. The Back family will remain involved with the brand. En Plaas Media en samewerking met Johnson Workwear borg jaarliks klerasie aan die Universiteit van die Vrystaat se Departement Landbou-Ekonomie. Vanjaar was geensins anders nie en die hele departement spog nou met netjiese hemde uit Johnson Workwear se Legend reeks. Plaas Media se samewerkingsooreenkoms met Johnson Workwear verseker dat die klerasieverskaffer sy handelsmerk reg oor die landboubedryf kan vestig. Verskeie projekte wat veilings, kompetisies en teelersgenootskap byeenkomste insluit, ontvang Johnson werksklere as deel van die ooreenkoms. En dis dan vandag se nuus.
Ons verwelkom graag vandag vir Dr. Danie Odendaal in die ateljee. Hy het natuurlik geen bekendstelling nodig nie en ons praat vandag of ons fokus vandag op vervangingsverse en 'n plan vir vervangingsverse, maar dit is 'n pasgemaakte plan spesifiek vir verse. Danie, dis omvattend meer as net inenting, is ek reg?
Ja, ons gaan baie spesifiek fokus op die inenting, want dit is die basis van ons opbou van kudde-immuniteit. Begin ons met die verse, maar die verse se program is regtig baie meer omvattend. Ons het baie voorheen gepraat oor die koeie en die bulle, die volwasse koeie se program. Dis 'n 12 maande siklus. Die groot verskil met die verse is, hulle program strek oor 3 jaar. So dit is 'n plan wat nie net vir 1 jaar uitgewerk word nie. Hy strek oor 3 jaar vanaf die vers gespeen word. Daar's op 8 maande. Daai eerste jaar wat ons na kyk en sorg dat sy groei. Heel belangrikste ding, sy moet groei en sy moet sekere teikens bereik. Ons het 'n baie spesifieke grafiek om te sê, hoorie, dit is die groei gewig toename per dag wat hulle moet bereik. En dan die volgende jaar moet ons al voorberei vir die eerste keer wat sy by die bal kom. So daar's 'n klomp goed wat daar moet gedoen word. Kom sy by die bal, ons doen die dragtigheidsondersoeke en dan daai dragtige vers wanneer sy vir die eerste keer kalf, is dit die grootste kritiese beheerpunt in daai hele leeftyd, daai eerste kalwing. Dis waar baie verliese kan plaasvind. En dan binne in hierdie 3 jaar program, gaan die vers vir die tweede keer bil toe, en as hy dan dragtig is, dan beskou ons haar as 'n volwasse koei. So daar's 'n ongelooflike klomp goed, ons gaan vandag soos ek sê, praat oor die inenting, maar dit gaan oor eerstens die bestuur van die groei van daai kalvers, gemeet teenoor 'n grafiek. Daar moet 'n minimum teelgewig wees aan die begin van die eerste teelseisoen. Wanneer ons die verse vir die eerste keer teel, is dit 'n baie streng seleksie van daai verse. Wat ons doen is, ons teel die verse vir 'n baie kort periode. So net die verse wat hoogs vrugbaar is, gaan dan dragtig raak, en dis die groep waaruit ons gaan selekteer. So is 'n seleksieproses, is 'n bestuur van groei, en dan die groot geleentheid om hulle immuniteit op te bou vir die res van hulle lewe wanneer hulle volwasse koeie is.
Nou goed, kom ons fokus nou op die inenting. Hier is natuurlik baie siektes ter sprake.
Ja, weet, in veearts en hy is ons so gewoond aan inenting. Ons doen enige iets tussen 5 en 10 inentings elke jaar op die diere, want ons het baie dodelike siektes. En baie mense verstaan nie, as ons dit kan afbreek in die spesifieke kategorieë waarvoor ons inent. Onthou, ons begin nou by die vers, ons bou nou 'n basisimmuniteit. Eerste kyk ons na die siektes, die dodelike bakteriese siektes. So daai siektes kan glad nie voorkom word of behandel word in tyd nie. Die enigste ding wat ons daar kan doen. Daai siekte is so vinnig, 24 tot 48 uur, dan is die dier dood. Dis al ons clostridiale siektes, so sponsiekte, ons lamsiektes. Daai siektes kan net deur inenting voorkom word, en dis een deel van my program vir die verse. Hulle word ten minste twee keer met die breë spektrum Clostridium enstof gespuit voordat hulle volwasse diere is. Tweedens kyk ons na die insekoorgedraagde siektes. Dis nou weer eens, maak nie saak wat jy op die plaas doen nie, jy kan nou nie afhou nie, want dit word deur insekte oorgedra. Hier kyk ons na knopvelsiekte wat die bekendste een is, 3-dae stywe siekte, waarvoor die verse baie vatbaar is, en dan die groot een slengdalkoors wat net so elke 10 jaar voorkom en dan groot sterftes, vrektes deur die land veroorsaak. Dis die ander kategorie waar ons teen moet inent, en baie boere ent nie hulle volwasse beeste daarvoor nie. Maar die verse moet geënt word. Ons gaan kyk hoekom is dit so belangrik om die verse daarvoor te ent. En dan die volgende kategorie van siektes is basies ons geslagssiektes. Ons siektes wat vir ons swak konsepsie of aborsie kan veroorsaak. Weereens, daai goed, die verse is hoogs vatbaar, dit moet gedoen word voor hulle die eerste keer by die bil kom. Die bosluisoorgedraagde siektes is die ander een. Baie boere ent nie daarvoor nie, hulle het natuurlike blootstelling, maar daar is individuele boere wat onder sekere omstandighede daarvoor moet ent. En die laaste kategorie is ons komplekse siektes. Dis siektes wat nie net veroorsaak word deur 'n organisme nie, maar waar omgewingsfaktore 'n baie groot rol speel, soos longontsteking en diarrees in daai diere. So daar speel enting 'n deel van die rol, maar daar's baie ander bestuursaksies wat daarmee saam moet gaan om daai siektes te beheer.
Om jou af te sluit, net 'n opsomming oor hierdie plan waarna jy verwys het, 'n paar gedagtes.
Die heel belangrikste ding is dat baie van die entings wil ons nie volwasse diere doen nie. Daar's nie tyd nie, dit is 'n beslommernis in ons bestuursprogram. So hierdie verse wat gespeen word in daai 3 jaar program ingaan, het ons baie tyd. En wat bedoel ons by tyd? Hulle is nie dragtig nie. So ons kan nou lewendige virus en stowwe vir hulle gee, sonder dat daar 'n krisis is dat hulle gaan aborteer of so iets. As ons daai enstowwe vir hulle gee in die eerste jaar, en die tweede jaar, voor hulle eerste keer bil toe gaan, het baie van hulle lewenslange immuniteit teen daai spesifieke siekte, soos knopvelsiekte of slengdalkoors. So dit is ook ons absoluut fokus, ons bou die kudde gesondheid. Want daai vers, onthou, elke jaar vervang hulle koeie. Elke jaar is omtrent 25% van hulle vervang 25% van die koeie. En oor tyd bou jy dan vir jou 'n baie goeie kudde weerstand op teen hierdie siektes. En dit is die hele konsep. Die laaste ding moet ons een ding verstaan, as ons 'n dier inent, dan vat dit 2 weke voor daai dier beskerming is teen die siekte waarvoor ons inent. As ons 'n skraagdosis gee, 'n herinenting, dan vat dit 2 dae. So as ons die verse effektief geënt het toe hulle jonk was, en nou skielik, of sê maar vir die volgende 3 jaar ent ons hulle nie vir 'n siekte so slenderkoors nie, wat net elke nou en dan voorkom, en ons was laas jaar bang uit gaan voorkom, en nou skielik moet ons die kudde inent wanneer sy uitbreek, dan kan ons, want as ons nou wat ons sê in die gesig van 'n uitbreek inent, is ons binne 2 dae weerstand. Maar as hulle nie ingeënt was nie, mag jy nie in 'n uitbreek inent nie. Dan moet jy basies daarmee saamlewe met die gevolge. So is baie belangrik, die kinderveearts se opstel van hierdie program oor 3 jaar vir jou spesifieke plaas is van uiterste belang, want dis baie aangewese op die omgewing en die siektes wat daar voorkom.
Danie, baie dankie. Dis dan 'n pasgemaakte plan spesifiek vir ons verse en ons het vandag gesels met Dr. Danie Odendaal.
Goeiemôre kykers, in die week se termynmarkverslag kan aangesien word dat grane en oliesade redelik goed gevaar het op Safex verlewering in September. Witmieliepryse is week op week 1.7% hoër terwyl geelmielies 2.4% duurder is. Koringpryse het skerp gestyg met 5.5% week op week en die sonneblom en sojapryse is onderskeidelik 3.3 en 2.0% hoër. Wat die olieprys aanbetref, na verlede week se daling in die prys het olie effens teruggespring die week en 'n week op week styging van 0.9% getoon vir 'n vatjie Brent. Die rand het dieselfde tyd verswak teenoor die vernaamste geldeenhede, 1.4% swakker teenoor die dollar, 0.7% swakker teenoor die pond en 1.2% swakker teenoor die euro.
It's my pleasure welcoming Professor Sue Walker in studio today. Being Women's Month, it's the right thing to do to have a lady from agriculture in the studio today. She's or was or is still a agrometeorologist, if I've got that correct, and she's used to be with the ARC, but we'll find out what she's busy with these days. Sue, lovely having you in studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, good to be here.
Where did your interest in climate and the environment start?
Well, when I was a child, my father was always measuring the rainfall with an old copper rain gauge, and my mother loved the gardening and wildlife. So also my geography teachers, they were really helping me to be interested in climate and how it affected. But some of my own experience was that when I walked to the bus on our side of the village, there was mist, so I had to have a raincoat and everything. But by the time I got to school, it was dry and the sun was shining, and that really fascinated me. Why was it different, such a short distance away from each other?
Mm-hmm. And what doors did studying the environment and climate change open for you?
Well, I've visited more than 70 countries in the last 40 years, so for me, that's just wonderful to be able to travel and so also be able to interact with the students. I think that really helps to keep me young, and I've had PhD students, only 6 from South Africa, but 12 from other countries in Africa and also 2 from Asian countries. So you always have to go and visit their projects, and that's also been fun. So I really saw that I became a bridge across cultures. And then I also served on a couple of international committees representing South Africa. So for the World Meteorological Organization and also for ICID, International Commission of Irrigation and Drainage. And so then representing the climate side and agrometeorology in those situations, yeah.
Mm. What is one of the guiding principles you use for your research?
I think one of the most important things is the saying that says, if you don't ask the right question, you don't get the right answer. So it holds even in normal life, but in research, if you asking the wrong kind of question, then you won't do the right kind of experiments or research. So that really helps me in most of my research. I guess the other one that I've lived by is the fact that failure is the back door to success. So, yeah, I mean, I failed Latin in standard 6, but now I know the names of the plants, the crops in Latin, and who would know? Only God could have taught me those things. And I would rather employ somebody who maybe failed 1 or 2 classes, because that's built determination and perseverance in their life. And so they're probably a much better worker. So failure is the back door to success.
Wow, that's a good one. Now, you've worked with many farmers. How did you make science useful for farmers and extension practitioners?
I think it's really about understanding and observing their current practices. So to meet with them in small groups, we call them focus group discussions, and to walk in the field with them and to really, again, ask the right questions. So find out why they're doing things and what they're doing, and not only that, but also to ask them what is their dream, what do they plan in 5 years' time, so that you can really guide them in knowing what to do. And so really I love to share about alternative crops. So they call them indigenous crops or the African crops. And many times those are the ones that really help the farmer to get a niche crop that they can then sell on the market, because there's only a limited market perhaps. And then also to just share my knowledge about the interactions between the environment and the livestock, or the environment and the crops. Because many times the farmers know some of those things, but they don't really understand the consequences always. And so you can help them to logic through some of those things. But I think one of the things that they respect you for is when you can say, no, wait, I don't really know the answer to this question, but I think I know who I can ask or where I can find it out. So really being that linkage, that intermediary for them to get some further information, I think that's also important.
And just showing that nobody's perfect.
Yeah, that's right. And then taking that information and making it into some kind of an agromet advisory or a service or a climate service or something. So using the climate information that we have at the ARC and from the South African Weather Service, and being able to add that agricultural value and then make a tailored forecast for them, so that you're helping them to make the decisions on the farm.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you traveled the world, if I could call it that. You've worked with farmers in different countries. Where and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I have many stories, but there's not time for all of those. But maybe some of my best memories are in Majika villages near to Mwanzi in Zambia. And I had a PhD student who was working there, actually 2. And so we visited those villages often. And just knowing that God had sent me there for more than just agriculture. So on one occasion they arrived at the bakkie, and then they greeted me, and we danced all the way to the big tree where the meeting would be. And one lady kept greeting me in English, and I thought, well, that's very strange, because they don't speak English here, you know. And then I remembered that the previous time we'd helped them to set up a kind of school. So we'd arranged that the younger girls, 15, 16, would help to teach the older women to read and write. And they not only learned their mother tongue, but this lady had learned some English too. So she was so proud of herself. And then I realized that, yeah, there's so much to give, and it's really wonderful to just be there in the village with the people. So they sat down with me one day and they said, you know, we want to talk to you. I said, okay. Well, they've seen today, if you've only got seed, then you should eat it. If you've got more than seed, if you've got some fertilizer or some manure or something, then you should plant it. And I thought it was just such a good wisdom, almost even what God gives us in the scriptures, that if you plant a seed, it will bear much fruit. And this is what they were saying about how their agricultural systems were.
Sue, we have to say goodbye, unfortunately. What are you doing these days? You used to be with the ARC, as I mentioned.
No, I'm still with ARC. I'm on a retiree contract for
Right.
some part-time, because I have some projects that are still ongoing. One is a WRC project, and we're working on the water, energy, food nexus. So looking at the interrelations between that in the Nkamati Osuthu catchment in Mpumalanga. And so there's several PhD students working on that also. And I'm also busy finalizing another project that's funded by GIZ, and that's for training of extension officers in climate smart agriculture. And so we've trained 100 extension officers in 3 provinces, and it's been very exciting. It's wonderful to see them learning and seeing how they can apply it in their real work. And of course, then I'm traveling 1 week in South Africa, somewhere else, not in Pretoria.
Right.
And I'm making my marmalade.
She's making her marmalade.
That's
there
right.
we are. Sue, thank you very much. Thank
you.
you. And that was Professor Sue Walker from the ARC, and she is a agro-meteorologist.
Verback, shaping the future of animal health.